While the region is being gripped with World Cup fever, a growing business scandal in Croatia is passing mostly under the radar. It all started after Russia was placed under international sanctions due to its attack on Ukraine. Croatia's top food manufacturer and retailer, Fortenova Group, is the successor of the now-bankrupt Agrokor. Its debt to Russia's Sberbank turned into equity after the collapse, making Sberbank the biggest shareholder in Fortenova. But following the EU sanctions, Sberbank sought to sell its stake to a mysterious buyer. It's quite a complicated story, but Veljko Skenderija will explain it better as he reports from Zagreb.
This is Ivica Todorić, the former owner of Agrokor, a food and retail conglomerate that was once one of the biggest companies in Southeast Europe. He was under investigation for his role in a fraud case that almost sent the company into bankruptcy and forced the state to intervene.
Mi smo sa posebnim zakonom ne samo spasili kompaniju, očuvali radna mjesta u Hrvatskoj, u drugim državama u našem susjedstvu, omogućili dobavljačima da ostanu na nogama, isplatili OPG-ovce u cijelosti, vratili postupnim mukotrpnim radom i kroz nagodbu i kasnije kompaniju praktički na tržišne osnove gdje su okrupnili vjerovnika i išli su u proces konsolidacije vlasništva.
A special law called Lex Agrokor meant that creditors had taken over Agrokor, now rebranded as Fortenova. The biggest of them was Russia's largest bank, Sberbank, with a 43% stake. But since the Russian bank is under EU sanctions, Zagreb pushed for a deal for its stake to be bought by Croatian pension funds. Everything seemed set, but then came a twist. The deal suddenly collapsed. The company that aborted the deal was AZ Fund, one of several pension funds operating in Croatia. As to the reason behind the sudden turn, no one seems to know. What is known is that the pension funds were very much keen on the deal, due diligence was done, and money was not an issue. But then came another surprise. After the funds turned back on the deal to buy Sberbank's $500 million stake in Fortenova, Emirati investor Saif Al-Kedbi appeared seemingly out of nowhere to announce he had just bought Sberbank's stake and now owned 43% of the company.
Tu sad nastupa privatna osoba, navodni šejik i tako dalje, neko ko bi kao fizička osoba trebao dati u takvoj operaciji možda ne 500, ali ne znam, sigurno nije dao 1 euro. Ne znam koliko para morate imati, pa da vam nije problem preko noći reći ok, ovi su odustali, ja ću platiti. Dakle, tu je sve krajnje neobično.
And it is quite unusual how the whole ordeal played out. Not a corporate, but a private investor conveniently had a huge amount of cash standing by and jumped on the deal right after the pension fund stepped out, and without due diligence. Did the AZ fund sabotage the deal to allow Al-Kedbi to take over so that its parent company, Allianz, would not jeopardize its business in the United Arab Emirates or in Russia? The biggest speculation is that Al-Kedbi is simply a cover for Sberbank and a front for Russian capital. So according to this widely accepted theory, Sberbank hired Al-Kedbi as a front to supposedly take over its shares so it can bypass sanctions and actively participate in the management of the company. Currently, Sberbank, although the largest shareholder, cannot, for example, vote at the company's assembly.
Unfortunately, nobody here really knows what's going on, or they don't want to talk. So much has come down to media speculations, but Fortenova's appearances in the press have completely disappeared. We called the representatives of the Arab investor in Croatia, but they had no comment either. And while the saga continues with so many unknown factors, what is certain is that Fortenova is a lucrative investment. The company just announced that it made a profit of nearly $75 million in the first 9 months of this year.
The Emirati investor allegedly also did quite well, as he paid significantly less than what Croatian pension funds would have for Fortenova. Some say the amount was only around $250 million, which seems to be a bargain. And this is a man accused of being the mastermind of the entire operation and the link between the Russians and Saif Al-Kedbi. Miodrag Borojevic is also a former member of the Fortenova management board, appointed there by Sberbank. But he says the claims are ridiculous and that he is nothing more than Al-Kedbi's consultant.
Moja uloga je bila isključivo savjetodavna po pitanju biznis vrijednosti kompanije, gdje me je arapski kupac koji je bio zainteresiran i koji pratio taj aset već duže vremena pitao za mišljenje o stanju kompanije, o potencijalima kompanije i na to se odnosilo. Sami pregovori su se vodili na relaciji Dubai-Moskva. Oni su ugovor zaključili, ja nisam legal expert da komentiram pravovaljanost tog dila.
Yet another of the many questions is whether Al-Kedbi can even be registered as an owner due to sanctions against Russia's Sberbank. And while he claims that he is a genuine investor who is willing to wait for years to be registered, it seems that in Croatia both the government and the opposition are convinced that he is just a Russian cover.
Mi smo u Hrvatskoj u jednom generalnom problemu da energetski sektor preko INE nam drže Mađari koji figuriraju kao saveznici Ruske federacije unutar Europske unije, da u bitnoj kompaniji koja se tiče i proizvodnje hrane i dakle nekakvih i vlasništva nad koncesijama, nad zemljištem i izvorima vode, dakle imaju Rusi i još pokušavaju taj utjecaj povećati.
At its peak, the former Agrokor's, now Fortenovas revenues were equal to 15% of Croatia's GDP and directly employed more than 60,000 people. Although its impact on the economy is now significantly less, it is still a strategic Croatian company, so there are concerns over the transparency of its ownership. And while the details of Al-Kedbi's Sberbank deal remain murky, we may soon have more answers, with Croatian intelligence now conducting its own investigation. Veljko Skenderija, TRT World, Zagreb, Croatia.
That's it for this week. See you next time. From me and the whole team here in Istanbul, bye-bye for now.